Okay, so now for argument's sake, let's say that I have a completed grade on my short sequence up here, and by now you should have on yours for real. The next step is to render this out so it can be delivered to our client. There are two main ways of doing this. We can render it out as a single clip and a single file, just like the baked master that we brought into Resolve, or we can export every single edit as an individual file and then deliver an XML, EDL, or AAF document alongside those to allow our client to reconform the project in their choice of editing software. We're only going to cover the first and most basic version of this in this lecture because we're mainly just looking at the interface and the various settings that we have to work with. So the first thing we want to do is here in the upper left, go to video and make sure export video is checked because we can, if we want to, remove the video and just export the audio. And then we have various drop-down menus down here. It will default to some version of H.264. Now, I'm making what I would call an intermediary delivery back to my client. I want it to be a high quality file that can be rendered out again without losing too much quality. What I don't want to do is deliver H.264 at this point because my client will add credits, they will add the final sound mix, they will add a number of elements to this before they perform the final export on their end. So I'm actually going to deliver a big file that will allow them to do that. So on Format, I'm going to click and I'm going to choose QuickTime. Now, I'm a Windows user, so I don't get ProRes in DaVinci Resolve, only in the Adobe suite. So I don't use the ProRes codec for delivery here. Under Codec, I'm going to click and choose DNX-HR. Now, DNX-HR is the Avid codec, but made for higher than 1080 resolutions, and it's the standard intermediary codec for the Avid workflow now. And if you're in Windows, it's what you'll be using instead of ProRes most of the time. Underneath Type, I'm going to choose DNX-HR 444 10-bit. This, to me, strikes the ideal balance between file size and quality, and I make that sound like a compromise, but it's actually very, very good indeed. There are other options. There's a 12-bit option. Unless you're delivering something very, very high-end, you're not going to need that. I don't know for certain, but I would guess certain VFX workflows maybe. The absolute majority of the time 10-bit will be fine. If you are using a Mac, then you want to render out ProRes 422HQ unless somebody tells you to do otherwise. Underneath that, we can choose our resolution, match it to the project, 1080 in this case. Then we have frame rate. The other checkboxes we will ignore for now. They're not relevant to us, and they're usually not relevant in the grade. These are more either VFX workflow things for alpha or for final mastering for the chapters from markers. Use constant bitrate is checked. We're just going to leave that checked for now. I'm not going to bother with a variable bitrate file. So these are the basic video settings, and for the most part, they're all you really need. But we'll take a very quick look under advanced settings and just call out a few things that might be relevant right now. Most of these are not, but the ones which are relevant we cover in due course. Most of these don't matter, but we'll just call out the key ones. Pixel aspect ratio, leave this on square if you're not working on a CinemaScope project. Data levels. I have a whole lecture on this later on, and it's especially relevant with the DNX codecs delivering into the Adobe suite, and it depends on the platform your client is using, Windows or Apple as well. But this is important when delivering DNX, and you'll definitely want to listen to that lecture when you get to it. Color space and gamma tag we will leave alone. Data burn-in we will also leave alone. Optimized media and proxies do not currently matter. Force sizing to highest quality and debayer. These two can be important. Force sizing to higher quality is only relevant if we've used an XML round-trip workflow or if we've edited directly in Resolve and there's pan and scan on the footage if we've blown up the footage and moved it around. Checking this box will maximize the quality of any rescaling for your footage. So it's an important one to check if you've used a lot of pan and scan. This is a baked master file, meaning any and all pan and scan was baked in at the time, so it's no longer an effect, so it's not going to do anything for us for this project. But in future projects, you may well want to check that. Force debayer to highest quality, only relevant if you're working with RED or R3D footage. If you are working on a RED project, you want this checked every single time. It makes sure that you don't accidentally render the Bayer pattern into your footage, which I've seen VFX artists do that by mistake before. Easy mistake to make. And finally, we have flat pass. This basically strips off all the grading work and exports a raw version of a graded timeline. Situationally useful, usually if the VFX artist are asking for plates. Other than that, I haven't used it. So that's all that really matters from the advanced settings here. So with that, I now want to give my file a name and choose a render destination. I will call this short sequence underscore 01 underscore MJF. Now, I will correct sequence. I use a very simple naming convention unless I am instructed to do otherwise by the client. That convention is project title underscore pass number, in this case 1 because it's first pass, but the next time we render this out it will be 2, then 3, etc. And then my initials so they know who is responsible for generating this file. On the vast majority of simple projects, corporate for web ads, that kind of thing, this will do you just fine. If your client tells you to name it a different way, do that. And if it's a more advanced project, if it's something serial length, if it's a web series, if it's something with a more organized pipeline, then make a point of asking what the naming conventions are so that you can conform to them. It's always your job to find out what the pipeline is and make sure that you integrate into it. So it's always better to ask too many questions than too few, believe me. So this is my simple naming convention. Then in location, I'm going to hit Browse. So what I want to do is go to my Resolve Deliverables folder, and I just want to render this clip out. Now I've already got a clip here. If I have two clips with the same name, when I hit Save, it will warn me, this clip already exists, do you want to replace it? In this case I'll hit Yes, because I don't want another first pass hanging around. It's usually good practice to keep all of your passes intact. In this case, I just wanted to show you that you can actually overwrite similar file names directly from Resolve without having to do anything manually. So now we've got it named, we've got all of our settings chosen. There is an audio panel up here. I tend to leave this at its default unless I'm instructed to do otherwise. Now that all of this is sorted, there's an Add to Render Queue button down here. And if I left click that, it will add a job to the render queue in the right-hand side of the screen. Now this is where all of our render jobs populate, and we can stack up multiple jobs at the same time and render them all out one after the other. We will take a look at that in a subsequent lecture. Once my job is present, what I want to do is either select the jobs I want to render or just hit the Render All button down here, and Resolve will render out the project. So now we've rendered our project out and we can go ahead and give the file to our client. Now we're going to take a look at rendering out multiple jobs, and we're also going to take a look at the rest of the XML pipeline in subsequent lectures. So go ahead and click on through once you're ready.